Hello, Internet, and welcome to episode 10 of Braindrizzle, our 10th podcast. Well, actually, technically the 11th podcast, because we had a 0th podcast, but we don't talk about that, do we, Jack?
No, there is no zero.
Yes, exactly. So,
There's no such number as zero.
not in our world. Anyways, before we jump into the news today, we should mention that next weekend there will not be an episode of Braindrizzle up. Because we will be broadcasting live for an hour as part of a charity event for two HIV related charities.
Yep.
So we will upload a video alerting you exactly when we are broadcasting live, but it's a whole 36-hour event, so there's information in the video description.
Yes, definitely. Check it out and donate. We're getting close, people. We need to cure this thing. This one of the most devastating diseases ever. And we're close. You can help. You can help.
Yeah, on that live episode, we'll probably be talking about various HIV related news, other virus news, and then other just general news, whatever comes up.
Yep. Lots and lots of shenanigans, and since it'll be live, I won't be able to edit anything out.
So yeah, you're gonna see how shitty we really are.
And some of the horrible things we say.
Yeah,
The horrible, awkward.
it's gonna be a good time, and plus some audience participation. So
Definitely.
that'll be a first for direct participation with Brain Drizzle.
Yeah, because there'll be like a chat and you can like type things. You can tell us about how you like our videos and you can dance to them, but we suck. And you can tell that to our faces and we can be like, screw you, man. You suck.
Yeah, we will say that.
Yeah.
And also, around the uploading of this episode, episode 10, we'll probably be doing a test live stream on our account. So if we are doing that, I'll have an annotation. And also a big thing, this entire event is happening on a relatively new live streaming site called Vaughn Live. So if you want to get in the chat, make sure you make an account.
Yes.
So with that out of the way, let's get into the news.
Woohoo! I love the news.
First story is Biotech. Surprise, surprise.
Hmm.
I'm just gonna take a pause. Some people over at the Biofab, which stands for the International Open Facility Advancing Biotech, which is a mouthful.
Yeah.
They have basically created the first genetic coding language.
Do what now?
So you know how computers run on binary, but you don't actually program in binary?
Speak for yourself.
That'd be so hardcore. It
I
takes so
know.
long.
Seriously, I mean, it's just like a keyboard with like two keys, just an on-off switch.
So, but basically, this is like the first sort of official language that is in between the genetic coding and what we actually want it to do. So it's like a mathematical structure with grammar and sort of categorized genetic parts.
What?
So, some of you probably know there's a thing called BioBricks, which is sort of a database of genes and what they do. And this sort of takes it to another level by reading parts on how well they tend to integrate with other systems.
Okay, so basically, it tells you which genes are better at plugging and playing with other genes.
Exactly. So basically, because a lot of times, even though we have a big catalog of parts, actually getting them to work in a new situation is still a very trial and error. So this sort of helps standardize the whole process.
I see.
And right now it's just for E. coli bacteria, but they suspect it'll work with other things too.
So if you ever wanted to give your friend custom diarrhea,
Yeah, custom diarrhea. Designer.
designer diarrhea.
Oh god, that's the episode name, isn't it?
Buzzing. There we go. Episode 10, designer diarrhea.
I don't want to find an image for that.
It's just Mr. Hanky, the Christmas poo.
What?
Just put up a picture of Mr. Hanky, the Christmas poo. Oh wait, no, copyright. We have to.
I won't ask.
It's from South Park. Oh my god, really? It's the first Christmas episode from the first season of South Park. Mr. Hanky, the Christmas poo.
I don't watch South Park. But let's move on.
Ah,
Before we go off the rails too soon.
oh come on, it's never too soon for that.
So my next story I have here is actually a departure for me because it is some space news.
Oh yeah.
NASA partnering with another space company. By the way, isn't it awesome we have space companies now?
I know that is out of this world.
You're terrible.
I know. I'm. It's because I'm a bad person.
You really are. Anyways, this in the next year or so, I think they're going to be launching a solar sail powered craft, and I'm pretty sure it's the largest one of its kind. It's definitely the largest that NASA has launched, and that's a ship that is propelled by the momentum of photons hitting off a reflective sail.
Okay, I have to ask the audience something. Am I the only one where the minute he started talking about, you'll know the moment, the minute he started talking about that, just started hearing pirate music in their head? I heard pirate music. Did any of you guys hear pirate music? Space pirates.
Space pirates.
Yes.
But the reason I thought this was especially cool was because they're naming the craft Sunjammer, which was apparently the name of a space yacht in a short story by Arthur C. Clarke.
Hmm. I have a feeling that these space yachts will become the target of space pirates.
Probably.
Because, I mean,
That's where all the rich astronauts are.
yeah, seriously, because if you think about it, regular yachting is a little too pedestrian for the 1% right now. Space yachting, I think that's where it's going to be at.
Oh,
And,
I'm sure Elon Musk will get on it.
indeed. And then we'll be pirates. You know, and
Hooray.
sailing the high spaces of the ionosphere, robbing rich people's vessels. And
Sounds
then
like a plan.
going back and drinking grog because you know they'll also be from the internet.
Well, it'll have to be grog in like a Tetra Pak, like a Capri Sun, because you can't have glasses or steins in space because the liquid will just float out.
Yeah, and Jimmy pops out of the kitchen is just kind of like, "Hi guys, I just found a way to make some bumbo with tang." And then they sit around telling stories about how the Arab Emirate prince that they just looted screams like a girl.
They got dark really quick.
Yeah, I did. Well,
Yeah. Anyway,
I don't
moving
know.
on.
I was just trying to talk about how the irony of a rich Arab screaming like a pussy because they have that macho front.
Yeah.
Anywho, yeah, all right.
So, next story is a return to form with some biology news. It's actually pretty interesting. I
Yeah.
won't dwell on it too much because there's sort of a lot of detail that isn't super easy to get into in a short time.
Mm.
But basically, there are a bunch of organisms, microorganisms, living like inside the ocean crust. It's it's pretty
Gross.
it's pretty crazy. Like actually in the cracks of the basalt at the bottom of the ocean, there's like a whole ecosystem of microorganisms.
Ew.
And so it's technically the largest ecosystem on the planet. Because the Earth's crust, well, the ocean crust is like 60% of the surface.
Wow. So like, how do they? What do they do down there? How do they get by? How do they make a living?
Well, actually, some of them, iron in the rock reacts with the water and produces some hydrogen. So some of them feed directly off the hydrogen gas, and then that's sort of the basis of the ecosystem. Others sort of feed on decay. Others sort of eat sulfates in the rock.
Mm.
So it's a whole ecosystem completely independent of light.
Okay, and now you've got everybody's attention.
Yeah, so basically, this is cool because not only is it cool to study them, but it sort of opens the possibility of life on other planets that might not seem very hospitable, but actually are.
Very good. Very, very good. So, the space pirates can get space herpes, in other words. Space syphilis from
Probably.
the rocks of the lands that they crash on.
Wouldn't that be something like you find an organism and then it's herpes?
We have found alien life, and it is all herpes.
Just a multicellular virus herpes.
Yeah, just somehow it happens. Herpes simplex X.
Yeah. Oh, speaking of X,
Yeah?
flawless transition.
Yes.
My final story today is about XNAs, which we talked about before, and that's nucleic acids. So like DNA and RNA, but the X stands for xeno, which means it could be a variety of different sugars.
And not just xeno sugar.
I'm not even sure. Like, what if they found? What if they found a xeno sugar?
Oh, snap. Well, they're gonna have to change that name then.
Yeah, really.
Yeah, so, I mean, you can't have them both be called Xeno. That just no, that's unscientific.
That'd be too confusing.
Yeah.
But basically, this particular research was about called threose nucleic acid, so TNA. And one of the reasons it's interesting is because the sugar has only 4 carbons, whereas DNA and RNA, their sugar, has 5 carbons, so it's simpler and may have predated both DNA and RNA on Earth.
What? Predated both DNA and RNA?
Yep.
No, what? Say it again? Did you say TNA?
Yeah, TNA.
TNA. It's really called TNA.
Yep.
I
just got that. I just got that.
Are you kidding me?
For like a solid minute, I was confused where you were going.
Going with, what again? TNA.
So maybe there's always been TNA.
There's always been TNA.
And TNA may save lives.
I agree.
But in all seriousness, this new research was about an enzyme that can translate from DNA to TNA and then back, so that TNA molecules can be selectively pressured to form potentially drug molecules that will act like DNA but not degrade as quickly, because our enzymes are designed for DNA and RNA.
So, like, if we went to an alien planet where they had life and it was all... there's just TNA everywhere, would they live longer than us? Would they age slower?
I don't necessarily think so. I mean, obviously, if TNA was the main form of life, good there, joke. I did not make the connection, and now it's all I can do.
That's all our audience can think about, too.
Yeah, so, I mean, obviously DNA became predominant for a reason, but this also seems to have its function.
Yeah. I mean, I wonder, maybe DNA has to be able to degrade for life to actually evolve. And maybe evolution would happen slower with TNA.
Well, I guess the reason DNA does degrade is because we have enzymes for recycling it.
Ah, so where they had TNA, they might just have enzymes to recycle the TNA.
Yeah, you are just a terrible, terrible person.
I know, but I fight for the side of good.
Oh, there's just so many, like, alien jokes, Kirk, all kinds of jokes.
Kirk did like the ladies. He did like the TNA.
Oh,
He was
God.
he was a xenophile.
He sure was.
Yeah, the future.
There's a sci-fi story in there somewhere.
The future has more sexual orientations than you can handle.
And TNA as far as the eye can see.
TNA, as far as the eye can see.
But this is actually getting back to seriousness for a very brief moment. This is pretty cool research in that because a lot of drugs and medical substances could be really effective because by interacting with DNA and RNA. But the problem is they just degrade so quickly in cells.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, dude, that is pretty fucking cool. It really is.
And it's not like dangerous like a virus because unless there are other TNA monomers floating around, it can't replicate, so it just sort of sits around, does what it does, and then eventually it'll just naturally degrade.
Yeah, because of gravity.
Sure.
Because that's just the only way I know of that makes the TNA degrade over time. Gravity,
Oh.
time, rapid weight loss.
What do you have?
All right. Well, okay, so all those rich motherfuckers may be driving their space yachts on space cruises to space Mars,
I'm getting some alien TNA, obviously.
where they will grow space crops.
Ooh, I like that. I'm into crafts.
Yeah, I think everybody can agree that we're pre- we as human beings are pretty into crops. And we're gonna try to find a way to grow that shit on Mars and the moon. And here's how this dude is gonna do it. This fucking guy has a database that he's using a database to search through all the different plants that would actually be able to tolerate and even thrive in the soil on Mars and soil on the moon. Like, we won't be taking our own soil up there. We'll be using that stuff, maybe mixing in some compost. That we probably make there to make sure it's sterile or something. But no, seriously, we'll be using that soil and growing plants in it.
That's pretty legit shit.
Yeah, seriously, every single time I'm just kind of like, oh, growing stuff. Oh, they're gonna talk about the gravity and the atmosphere and it's just like the lack of air pressure. So I'm thinking they're gonna be like putting greenhouses around, but everything it's gonna be like a slice of Earth cut out of the surface and flown over to Mars and just set there in like this protective fucking case. Like,
Well, I mean, alright, now
that's what I always imagine. And then you got this dude being like, there's dirt up there, why don't we use that? And I'm just kind of like, you fucking maniac.
you magnificent bastard.
You magnificent, yes.
But obviously we can't use the soil straight up. I mean, there's plenty of CO2, but little known fact, the roots of the plant actually need oxygen. So I'm assuming there's going to be some kind of greenhouse type structure, but just using the local dirt.
Well, yeah.
So
yeah,
cool.
But yeah, they're gonna.
It's not gonna be like just plants just chilling out there.
No, it's not. But still, I mean, you always just imagine that we'll be using Earth soil, but they're actually gonna find a way to use freaking moon dust to grow some shit out of. And I mean, it'll be, in like buildings and stuff. I mean, hell, technically, I mean, they could aerate the soil underneath a dome and not have a floor. Be growing it directly out of Mars. It's just they've tilled that up and stuck a dome over it.
Definitely, definitely.
Yeah, because I mean,
Now,
just like till it, that's all you need to do to put oxygen in there. And if you got a dome, it's gonna stay, it's gonna stay circulating. They're gonna try to like make some sort of biodome ecosystem thing.
yeah.
But I mean, I'm just imagining, by the look of the research, if it pans out, by the look of the research, that could be a viable option. Not saying that that's exactly what they're got their heart set on. That's what I have my heart set on. Because fuck yeah. But,
Now, is there mention of actually like making like replica soil and testing it?
hold up. Actually, I think they're actually just gonna have astronauts go get soil and bring it back for us to use.
Oh, just go get soil. No big deal, no big deal. Just pop over to Mars and get some soil.
No, seriously. Wamelink. That's that fucking fucker's name. Goddamn magnificent motherfucking fucker. Says, and I quote, "We will let them allow certain species of wild plants and agricultural crops to germinate in pots of artificial moon and Martian soil supplied by NASA." Okay, artificial. Okay, they'll be making it. Dang it. When I read that, I skipped over the word artificial because I had my awesome vision glasses on.
Yeah. Now, any talk of maybe modifying or taking certain genes from plants that could tolerate them and then putting them into our staple crops or stuff like that?
Um,
Because, I mean, I'm
no.
assuming that the vast majority of just plain old crops that we grow aren't going to be able to be, like, cool with it.
They don't mention that. I mean, I'm assuming that'll probably be part of it, but that's not really what the story's about. The story's just about isolating what plants would already be able to tolerate it and then testing it out. So
Uh,
I'm guessing maybe they'll actually a lot of these might be, it doesn't say specifically that it's only going to be crop plants. So it could be they're going to any and all plants and then isolate those ones so they can genetically.
yeah.
But I don't.
I mean, like that would be. I was like, that'd be like the coolest research, figuring out how to genetically engineer plants so they grow on fucking Mars.
Seriously. How rad would that be?
Totally, totes. Oh god, I hate myself now. Um, oh, that's cool. What else you got?
What else I got? All right, so I got this very special story, basically saying, memories of near-death experience are literally real in the brain. Allow me to continue. And there's actually a interesting point that I want to make with this particular story, which is kind of why I picked it. Basically, when a lot of times when people end up in very mortal peril where they get really really hurt to the point where they almost die, or even if they flatline, they'll talk about having like these crazy experiences called near-death experiences. Like they'll go on a journey. Sometimes they end up in a desert. Sometimes I've actually like watched on TV people describing being in hell, people describing being in heaven, and it's all like different stuff, and it's all things that you'd expect in that situation. Like let's say that you are let's say that you're from Arkansas and you practice, it's just like you practice whatever religion, and you and basically you die and you think you go to hell. You imagine hell based on what's been described to you by people. However, if you are in India and you have one, then just like what you expect to happen happens.
Isn't that interesting?
Yeah, that's kind of how that goes down. And sometimes it deviates. Sometimes people remembers talking to loved ones. I mean, it's all over the place. Very wide variety of stuff. However, there will be some consistent things like going toward a tunnel, certain feelings, and one thing will be that everything's like you feel it. It's very real, and you remember it as being feeling like a very very real experience. And they put these people into tubes and then scanned their brains to take a look at like the memories of the near death experience. And they showed that the memories of the near death experience looked more like actual memories in the brain than like imagined events. Like basically they're just like, okay, remember yesterday for me. And then they remember going to the store yesterday and they're just picturing that. They get a picture of that and they're just like, okay, now remember that near death experience. And they're like, okay, and they remember that. Now I want you to think about a daydream you had, or I want you to think about an actual dream you had one time. And then they look at that memory. They're just kind of like, okay, the memory of thoughts that you've had, the memory of daydreams, the memory of actual dreams you had looks like this. The near death experience looks like this. It's like a lot like the memory of you going to the store, including memories of tactile sensations. The memories of tactile sensations will actually be stronger in the memory of the near-death experience than in actual memory. So, even though you were lying on a fucking table, you remember Jesus touching your forehead, and the memory of Jesus touching your forehead in this big white room will be more real than any other memory you've ever had, even though it obviously did not happen. We're talking actually remembering somebody touching, like, being touched on your body. And
Show me on the doll where Jesus touched you.
yes, exactly. Show us on the doll. I mean, this is like, but there's no way that anybody could have actually touched your forehead because you were out of your body, dead, and your soul was in the afterlife. So technically he was touching your soul's head. Why would the body feel it? That's the exact crux of it. Now, here's the point that I want to make with this. People will read this story, people who believe in near-death experiences will read this story and be like, here's scientific evidence that near-death experiences are valid and true. People who are skeptics will read this story and, it's like, when I first read the story, I actually felt I felt a little uncomfortable because I used to believe in all this kind of stuff, and now I'm like atheist skeptic. I did a freaking 180. It was an intense experience, changing my paradigm that drastically. So sometimes when I read stuff like this, I feel a little uncomfortable. It's crazy. It's a strange feeling that I don't quite know how to describe, and since that's not what the podcast is about, I'm going to continue. I was reading this, I got this kind of crazy feeling, so I had to kind of go to a super objective place in my mind. And I realized that skeptics who read this story would probably see this as like evidence that, oh, well, near-death experiences are definitely just all in the mind. In fact, we have this that proves it. Because, it's like you were on the hospital bed, the angel did not touch your arm, the angel touched your soul's arm, but your physical arm felt it, that cannot be, therefore, there is no life after death. What? See, that is just as illogical as saying that this is evidence or proof that there is life after death. All this says is that the memory of what happened beyond, or what happened while we were out and our brain chemistry was going crazy, and made us have this funky ass dream where we went to Oz and met like a scarecrow and some shit. Like, yeah, the Wizard of Oz movie is actually, a lot of people consider that to be about a near-death experience. Just fun fact right there. In the book, she actually goes to Oz and she walks down the road back to where her house used to be. But in the movie, she hit her head and had a crazy dream. Anywho, basically, the idea is that all this says is that whatever happens when you almost die gets recorded in the brain as realer than life, realer than a real event.
Well, just my initial gut reaction to this, as a skeptic like you, is,
Yeah.
well, no, duh. I mean, wouldn't someone who had a hardcore hallucination also perceive it as a real memory?
It's a little more complicated than that, and I'm not gonna go too deeply into that question. But audience, look at the story and keep that question in mind for yourself and see how you react. Because I don't want to talk too much about the details, because I want enough of the story to be new to the audience so that they can go through and maybe talk about your reaction in the comments, because I'd actually kind of like to kick up a little discord on this one, so to speak.
Yeah,
But
definitely.
basically, to be objective, you have to take this as it is. That if you remember an angel being touched by an angel that time, that right after you got in that car wreck, that memory is very, very real. It is etched into your brain. Whether or not it was a hallucination is irrelevant. This story, while you think, well, obviously this means there's no life after death, or obviously this means there is life after death. No. This story has nothing to do with life after death. It simply has to do with what specific memories of a specific unique event look like in the brain. Don't take these things and go too far one way or the other. No one story, no one piece of evidence, no one fact is going to tell you yes or no on questions like, is there life after death? It has to be a whole bunch of facts. It has to be a whole bunch of facts coming together for a bigger picture. You need more evidence than just this one thing. And using just one thing to substantiate or invalidate the other person's, whatever, is illogical and actually borders on magical thinking. I personally think there is no...
I would disagree with you.
Oh, yeah?
I would say the same way, well, because there is no evidence for life after death, and there literally is no conceivable mechanism within physics to allow that kind of entity or that kind of mechanism
where your body feels where your soul got touched by an angel.
or at least any kind of coherent consciousness after the brain fails.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, entropy, after the brain stops maintaining itself, the mind is just gonna degrade, and there's no other place your brain can go. So...
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but, well, obviously, that there's no life after death, but what does that say about... what does this say about the memory?
Like that your brain didn't completely die.
Well, here's the thing. These are people who came back to life. Like, they didn't actually die. They almost died. And then
they didn't become brain dead.
Yeah, they didn't become brain dead.
Once you're brain dead, you're kaput.
Yeah. However, somebody who believes in the afterlife could very easily say, well, the brain remembers this while it's happening, because your soul has left and gone to the other side. If your soul comes back, then it brings the memory with it. But if it doesn't come back, then, the brain goes kaput, but the soul is living on. Like, somebody who believes in it could easily, tie that up.
I guess, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you have to watch for that. You have to act... I mean, it's one thing... Having the experience of how I used to believe in all kinds of crazy shit. I mean, like, not just common beliefs about spirituality and the divinity and God and vibes and the afterlife and all that kind of stuff. Not just specific commonly held cultural beliefs. I had those. Plus, I had some more fringe beliefs, too. I mean, I've been in that arena, and I know how I justified my beliefs. If somebody showed me this, trying to be like, here, I'm going to show you this so that you see that there cannot be no afterlife, I'm going to look at them like, bitch, please. But, I mean, it's like something that looks...
What was it? Was it actually an arena where you, fight to the death over your crazy beliefs? Because that would be kind of awesome.
Yeah, but there's a long line, and I became an atheist before they called my number, so I never got to fight.
Oh, good. Wait, did you imagine people trying to fight each other with pretend superpowers? Oh shit, that's basically LARPing.
I mean, I had my shield and lancet and my armor ready to go, and I was on my way down the hallway, and then all of a sudden, oh shit, atheist. Man, my number was I was one from getting called up to, man. I was almost in the pit. I was almost in the pit. Okay, no,
Let's move on from the story before everyone gets angry at us.
yeah, no, but serious. The point I'm trying to make is like, okay, you see an article like this and you're just like, that's it. That's what I'm gonna show my crazy girlfriend or crazy mom or, because most of you are straight males, I'm going to assume that that's the direction you'd go with it. But no, I'm going to go show my crazy friend this. See, there are no near-death experiences. They're going to look at this and be like, bitch, please. You have to stop yourself from going too far. To keep yourself from looking like an idiot when trying to explain stuff or educate people.
Yeah.
It's easy to get carried away. That's all I'm trying to say.
Yeah, okay. I get what you're saying.
Yeah, but I wanted to make sure that everybody got it. Anyway, so that's interesting. And now for this fun story. Somebody sent this to me on Discovery.com. First love child of human and Neanderthal found.
Hopefully it's not recent.
I don't give a man. Hopefully it's not. Are you serious? Hell no. No, seriously. In northern Italy, about like 4,000 to 3,000 years ago, we're talking like around there, they found the skeleton that they believe might belong to a human Neanderthal hybrid, like what we've been looking for. Now, this whole thing with did we interbreed with Neanderthals? It's been such a emotional roller coaster. I mean, seriously.
I think it's only been an emotional roller coaster for you.
Well, they're playing games with my heart. Okay.
Do you like really badly want to be part Neanderthal?
Yes.
Oh.
I'm hoping so. Because it'd be cool. Well, no. A long time ago, not long a time ago, but a few years ago, they, some genetic research determined that the DNA of people with European and Asian ancestry is 1 to 4% Neanderthal. So they think. And then they started thinking that, okay, well, the thing that we used to track, it turns out, actually existed in a common ancestor to humans and Neanderthals. So, while, okay, maybe it didn't persist and it only persisted in Neanderthals, but this is like, basically, oh, damn, it's not conclusive after all. It's just like, it'll look less like, they get more and more info, it's just like, make it look really less likely, and then they'll end up with just something like this that just flies in the face of all that. A lot of people are just like, it doesn't look like anybody migrated up to Europe to bone our cousins until they were all dead and gone, so they could only bone the bones, which I doubt they did, somehow. But anyway, so they keep saying that, but you have to remember that Europe is a very big place. There's always chance on a whole freaking continent that there's something we may have missed.
Yeah.
It only takes one group. It only takes one tribe.
Yeah, but I think the Neanderthal was the mother, right? Did you say?
God, actually, no, because they found a skeleton that they think belonged to a hybrid. Yeah, so they don't have the parents laying right on either side.
I heard somewhere, maybe I am incorrect, but I heard in a video about the story that they actually sequenced the DNA and the mitochondrial DNA.
Okay, I don't know. Oh wait, yeah, they did. Okay, I just finally saw it in the story.
Damn, Jack, read your articles.
Hey, we were in a hurry, and I was reading the other two to get them down, and then I had to rush through this one, and I got really excited. So, you made me rush through my favorite story. This is your fault.
Of course it is.
It's all your fault.
So, but
if I have to be the bad guy, then it gets to be your fault.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. Yeah, that makes total sense. Okay. Anyway, but yeah, they did say that. Okay, so It's neat, and I'm very, very happy about it. See, I look at the faces and like the pictures of Neanderthals. It's like they had the recessed chin. I see people walking around with chins like that. Not to be
Gee.
mean, but I see people walking around with it. And then they got these like very long noses, and it's just like I see people with those noses. I see people whose faces resemble these dudes. How could this not be the case? I mean, it's just like I look at this. I'm looking at the picture on the story, and I'm just kind of like, that person looks a little like my grandma. So it's so yeah.
Yeah. But
And I
it
just
did
think it'd
just
be really
kill your
neat.
buzz so hard. You do realize that the Neanderthal was probably raped, right?
Well, I assume that if they weren't raping us, then we were probably raping them, because you do know humans are pretty rapey too.
Yeah. Well, pretty much all animals are like that.
Yeah, it's not good, and we should not do it. But yeah,
This is funny because you're so excited.
you're just like, they probably raped, right? And I'm just kind of like, I just kind of assumed it'd be the other way around. Does that make me racist?
Speciesist, I guess.
Yeah, speciesist. I don't know. It's like Neanderthals. They're humans, but they're not humans. It's kind of weird. It's complicated. Our relationships with Neanderthals it's complicated.
Evidently. Here's a skill, then improve it.
Yeah.
I
Seriously,
found that
though.
in Encyclopedia similar. Just the entry for Neanderthals, it's complicated.
Yes. It's a
That
fact.
that is our species relationship status.
Wow, dude, no, seriously. That would actually be a pretty good title to a book about, like, the whole Neanderthal thing, the whole Neanderthal question of, do they continue, does their DNA continue to live on in us?
Yeah.
It's just, and not only that, but you have to go into how we see of Neanderthals, how we believe that they were an ancestor at first until we discovered otherwise, and just what Neanderthals are in, like, what they represent in Western culture.
Yeah, but also to
And
clarify for people, Neanderthals are a separate species, and they are a cousin species, not an ancestor. So Neanderthals and Homo
yep.
sapiens diverged from a common ancestor. I do not know for sure, but I want to say off the top of my head, either habilis or erectus.
Mm-hmm. And also, Neanderthals, their forearms were longer than their arms, so it made that harder. That made it harder for them to throw. And I throw like shit.
Really?
Yeah, I throw
No,
like
I
shit.
mean,
I throw like a
not
girl.
you, the Neanderthal thing.
Yeah, yeah. Neanderthals, they had heavy spears that they would jab stuff with, and they believe that they may have gone extinct because end of the Ice Age, like the huge prey, went away, and humans were better adapted to hunt smaller prey.
I see, interesting.
Yeah, humans could throw a spear, and Neanderthals couldn't really. They had to get up close and jab.
Ah.
Yep.
Well, that was interesting.
Their spears were like the almost precursor for a lance,
Ah,
though in the way that they used them. I mean, and ours were kind of like were basically javelins.
yeah.
Like that was the distinction in the use of the spear. They're both spears, but they used theirs more like a jousting lance, a lance. We used ours more like a javelin.
Yeah. Well, that's interesting.
Like that basically that's kind of where they edged off to. They weren't lances or javelins. They were spears that were used like that, or a spear that was used like the other.
Yeah.
And a lot of that had to do with
The arms.
yeah, because I mean, okay, if you have a shorter, like the biceps, like the forearm was longer than where the aft arm, where the bicep is. If you actually have that, you have more mechanical strength, so you can just like take something and really dig it in. Like you could, these motherfuckers could punch hard
Yeah.
because of how their arms were, but they couldn't throw very well because they didn't have that whip action. It just the mechanical difference, and it's only a difference of like maybe an inch or
I
two.
see.
in ratio. Yeah, it's crazy.
Crazy. Well, Jack, are we out of news?
I think for today, yeah.
Well, hope you enjoyed the episode. Hopefully it's not called Designer Diarrhea. Um, Also,
We could just
we're
call
very
it tits and
serious
ass.
and do check the video description or the description on iTunes for information about the charity event.
Yes, please do. Please do. Please watch it. Please help out. Tell your friends. Look through the list of different guests who are going to be talking
Yeah,
because like
there's
each
like a
hour they
fuck
have a
ton of
different person.
hosts. And
Yeah, there's
we're
a
just
fuck ton of
1 hour.
hosts. Yeah, seriously, it's a big old thing. Like, look through the list, see if there's any other maybe YouTubers that you know of that you'd like to check out, and maybe just be like, a lot of them are kind of in like the skeptic community. They aren't all science dudes.
Yeah.
And actually, I think
Although
are we the
Concordance
only
is in
science
there,
dudes?
and Oren Raw.
Concordance. Okay, so we got 2 other science dudes
Yeah.
that I know of.
I'm like, damn it, 'cause I wanted Concordance on as a guest for our segment because he's a virologist, but oh well. Too
Yeah.
bad.
Fuddy duddies. But yeah, anyway, we're science dudes, and there's a couple other science dudes, but you look through and you'll be like, hey, cool. I've looked through, there's a couple of vloggers who I've heard their names. I don't know if they're science dudes or not, though. I don't know if they're science dudes or, social skeptics who concentrate on the social effect of the ideological hubbity-bubbity that is Western culture.
Yeah. Hopefully less diarrhea on the next episode, but no guarantees. And I don't know if there's any plan to record it, so if you don't watch us live, you may be out of luck.
Yeah, it may never happen again.
Dun dun dun.
And it might be the last episode!